You dismissed my mother in her own house.
Come here. Kneel.
How dare you use the voice on me?
In 2024, Hollywood seemed to be grim and gloomy with so many superhero films and pointless sequels. But suddenly, Dune Part 2 appeared like a savior. Let us see how this movie made its mark all around the globe. The movie continues the tale of the first film, with Paul Atreides pursuing vengeance on those who harmed his family. He gathers followers who regard him as a messiah while the baddies increase their control on the world. The film keeps loyal to the book's themes of strength and faith. The sights are amazing, and the performances, particularly by Timothe Chalamet, are outstanding. Despite some minor shortcomings in the script and pace, Dune Part 2 is a well-crafted science fiction movie that any fan of this genre would love. Actor Timothe Chalamet has had a fantastic few months. Firstly, Wonka has been a big box office success, being the 8th most grossing film of 2023. And now, his portrayal in the upcoming science fiction sequel Dune Part 2 has received fantastic reviews. In the highly anticipated sequel to filmmaker Denis Villeneuve's 2021 epic, Chalamet reprises his role as protagonist Paul Atreides, this time seeking vengeance on the House of Harkonnen for slaughtering his family. Of course, there's also the minor issue that many believe he's the Messiah, fulfilling a prophecy that will lead to a horrific future that only Paul can predict. So what made Dune Part 2 special? Dune Part 2 is a fantastic and fascinating continuation of the epic adventure, which takes place in a futuristic world full of intrigue and mystery. It's jam-packed with jaw-dropping imagery, from gorgeous scenery to mind-blowing special effects that bring the plot to life. In this film, we follow Paul Atreides, played by the great Timothe Chalamet, as he grows from a cautious hero to a forceful leader. Chalamet's performance is riveting, conveying the core of Paul's journey with depth and heart. The film delves into fundamental subjects such as power, religion, and the implications of blind faith, adding levels of depth to its compelling plot. It remains loyal to the beloved book series, delivering fans a realistic and entertaining cinematic experience. Dune Part 2 features a talented ensemble that includes Zendaya and Austin Butler, and the performances are unforgettable, drawing you into the characters' hardships and successes. Denis Villeneuve's imaginative direction ensures that every scene keeps you on the edge of your seat. On Earth, humans have evolved to occupy a rather comfortable position in the food chain. To risk being eaten by an apex predator, you must wander far from other humans. For example, straying from the trail in safari or swimming in dark, shark-infested seas. On Dune, the spice-rich desert colony of Frank Herbert's early 60s pulp cereal, no one takes his safety for granted. Surface dwellers live in fear of huge sandworms that slither at high speeds to consume anything potentially edible up above. Director Denis Villeneuve hinted these beasts in his awe-inspiring but episodic 2021 remake of Dune. In terms of science fiction, the film changed the rules, beginning with groundbreaking visuals and equally remarkable sound design to the point where these features overshadowed the plot, an intergalactic fight over the galaxy's rarest resource. As mind-blowing as it all was, we barely saw these subterranean terrors. They appeared twice, not just long enough for humans and their robots to disappear into sinkhole-sized mouths, and then Timothe Chalamet's slender Paul Atreides barely outran another, turning to stare up into a maw lined with hundreds of long-pointed fans. The sandworms return in Dune Part 2, one of many dramatic playoffs Villeneuve carefully reserved until after a 2-year interval. Don't confuse this follow-up for a sequel. It's the second half of a narrative that Villeneuve has hinted he would want to continue with a third chapter if Part 2 does well enough. Like Christopher Nolan, the director works on the grandest scale conceivable, pushing the medium to meet his vision. Like Nolan, he enlists composer Hans Zimmer's assistance in making everything sound as wonderful as it does. Some will start with this film, and why not? The first film debuted during the pandemic and was distributed on HBO Max on the same day. However, Part 2 is only available in theaters. Villeneuve builds on the same style, treating each shot like it's a painting. Every design choice appears to have been passed down over millennia of alternative human history, from ancient hieroglyphics to a myriad of imaginative masks and veils intended to obscure the faces of individuals wielding power, nearly all of whom are women. Skip Dune and start here, and you'll be missing out on important context. Villeneuve and co-writer John Spates started after a terrible holocaust, as cruel and annihilation as America's PG-13 rating allows, in which the bodies of countless good men are heaped in mounds, fodder for Harkonnen flamethrowers. The enemies are simple to recognize, the heroes in Herbert's book series, which follows Chalamet's role, the legendary savior, or Quetzalcoatl's head Eric, with skepticism. The film questions if Paul is the Messiah or a self-fulfilling prophecy. Could centuries-old religious ideas have been instilled with the sole intention of influencing the masses? While it's pleasant to see Paul gain his retribution in Part 2, he's haunted by visions of the impending holy war and has every right to ponder his own fate. This great leader, like Anakin Skywalker and his son Luke in the Star Wars trilogy, is drawn to the dark side. The morality of Dune is far from simple, and many viewers will miss or misread the film's extremely conflicted tone in its last minutes. What appears to be victory may actually be a setback. Paul may be a messiah, but the film places Chalamet on a same footing, standing with the Fremen rebels while the Harkonnens deploy wave after wave of soldiers to exterminate these rats. However, given where the story goes, Villeneuve clearly intends to suggest some of the real-world's racial dynamics, casting darker-skinned characters in Fremen roles while challenging Paul's white savior arc. Stilgar is Paul's most devoted disciple, putting him through a series of fascinating challenges, like riding a sandworm and drinking the deadly blue water of life. The second Dune film is very breathtaking. It ingeniously mixes together high-quality special effects and striking cinematography, adding muscle, mystery, and savagery to the bones of Part 1. Villeneuve has created an unfriendly, violent form of beauty. There isn't enough lip balm in the world to make visiting the sand-blasted wilderness planet of Arrakis pleasant. However, this magnificent action film depicting the growth of Paul Atreides, played by Timothe Chalamet, from a naughty adolescent with some sword skills to a strong warrior, and finally to the predicted leader of the Fremen tribe on Arrakis, comes to life. So, how did Villeneuve succeed? And make no mistake, Dune Part 2 is a huge accomplishment in adapting a book that was long thought to be unfilmable. Did you know that in the 1970s, the novel was planned to have been converted to a 14-hour-long movie? The scope and beauty of Dune, Frank Herbert's 1965 far-future novel of interplanetary feudal conflict, presented an immense hurdle to previous potential directors. The massive budget available to Villeneuve's films surely helps. A lack of funds was the issue that hindered Alejandro Jodorowsky's planned 14-hour movie version of the book in the early 1970s. And studio support is another. While Warner Bros. Hasn't exactly shown recently, as anyone who has been following the Coyote vs. Acme debacle will know, it has at least given Villeneuve the space and freedom to realize his creative vision. But a key component of Villeneuve's approach, a creative attitude that works particularly well with the subject, is his unwavering dedication to showing rather than telling. It's an eerie soundtrack to a plot that shifts away from passionate optimism, truth and romance, and towards corrupt politics, betrayals, passion, the weaponization of fear, and the looming threat of a horrible religious conflict. At moments, Dune Part 2 feels achingly relevant. What were your thoughts on the movie? Let us know in the comments below, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.